What do you think about his play so far this year?
Yeah, Chris, you just kind of said what I was going to start off with. They've averaged 25 points per game so far through 3 games. And, last year, through the first 3 games, they only had 36 total points. So I think, although the 0-3 start doesn't show for it, the guys picked up the offense pretty well, averaging 25 points a game. Against Vanderbilt, he was 17 for 34, 50% passing percentage, which is kind of what he's been at the whole year. And he's managed the game pretty well. They're 0-3. If you look at an 0-3, but if they close out those last 2 games, they could easily be 2-1. We could be having a completely different discussion about Blake Frohnapfel. I know he probably has the most experience, on the roster of the quarterback, and I still think you have to consider him as your starting quarterback because, he hasn't done anything to lose that job. They could be 2-1. Although they faltered at the end, maybe, if he could have dictated the pace on offense a little bit, they would have had the ball for longer and not allowed those comebacks to happen. But, like Xander mentioned before, special teams kind of killed them. And I look at Blake, I don't think he's done anything wrong. So far he has 5 touchdowns and 2 interceptions on the season, which, they're not eye-popping, but they're not something to say, this guy's not your starting quarterback.
I agree. So, Joey, what do you think our chances are out in Joe Paterno land out in Penn State?
Well, like me and Xander kind of talked about before the show, you're talking about a team that plays in the Big Ten, a team that's always had a good reputation. Christian Hackenberg, their quarterback, he's considered one of the best in the country right now, and they're coming off a pretty big high. They beat Rutgers 13-10 last week on a game-winning drive, which was led by Hackenberg. So obviously, their offense is going to be there. You look at Penn State is Penn State. They're playing at Penn State as well. That's a tough place to play. Maybe one of the tougher environments
Tough place
to play
to win too, not
in the
just
country.
To play.
They got over 100,000 fans every single game. When I look at what UMass has to do, whenever you go on the road, you have to try to keep the game close in the beginning. They can't let this slip out of their hands right from the get-go. If they go down 14-21-0 early in the first half, mentally and physically, they're probably out of it just because Penn State is that good. But, you look at UMass as well. They're coming off 2 heartbreaking losses. Can they use that as motivation into a game against Penn State? Obviously, they're underdogs. They're not going to be favored. But, I don't see UMass coming out with a win, but, you never know.